Anything in particular you want to start with?
Talk about James Bond, I suppose.
Bames John.
Bames John.
Bames John. What's poppin', everybody? Hello and welcome to Popcorn Culture. My name is Ben Carlin and I am your host. Here with me today is my brother Jay, who will be in every episode.
I have to say, Ben, that was 10 out of 10 better than the AI wrote your intro for you.
Oh, thank you.
Much more concise, right to the point. Boom, we're started the show.
Boom, bam, boom, bam. We're in it. So we probably need a topic. Hey, do you believe in soulmates?
Do I believe in soulmates? Oh my gosh, wow, just getting straight to it.
Just straight to it. Just hit you. I mean, we even discussed beforehand. It's like, hey, we'll talk about something else. And I was like, psych.
Okay, so
gonna hit you with this bad boy.
Define soulmates, meaning two people who are literally born with the destiny of meeting each other, or else two people who, should they meet each other, are actually like souls who were designed to be together if they can only find each other, or just two people who are really great together.
Here's the thing. In a lot of ways, I feel like the idea of a soulmate is very open to interpretation. But
exactly.
Obviously, because without saying,
because there was three right there.
And I think all of those are completely applicable. But I have also discovered a phrase like I've heard said throughout the years, but it's kind of like for all intents and purposes, like it's one of those things that like people would say. And it was sort of like using context clues. It's like, I understand what you mean. Like I don't even know if I've ever really focused a whole lot on the words intents and purposes. Just like in generally speaking,
right?
Is like what I hear when I hear that phrase.
Yeah.
And another one of those that I have heard throughout the years is the phrase kindred spirits.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like one of those things like these people, they're kindred spirits, and it was just sort of like, yeah, they get along. But Alice and I were having an interesting conversation about this the other day because throughout all of our years, we've certainly like touched on this topic before, and we've run through a myriad of different like kind of like what ifs ourselves. Like for example, when I was applying to colleges, I ended up getting accepted early to Radford, which is where I ended up going to school. Right. And then I got late acceptance to James Madison University, which is where your wife, Beth, went to school.
Correct.
And I've always thought in my head, if I'd gotten those acceptance letters on the same day, there's a much greater likelihood that I would have committed to JMU.
Right.
Instead. And I think that in a lot of ways, I've always been so curious, like how different my path would have gone.
Right. Like what would your life look like today if you'd made this one decision differently?
Exactly. Because while Alice and I technically had like a piece of contact while we were at school, we weren't like friends, like we wouldn't have like waved at each other as we passed each other on the quad or something like that. Like that was not really like the kind of relationship. It was just sort of, she went to a high school from like our local area, and like Facebook was really big at the time we were going to school. And it was kind of like people had already attached like their universities to, like their Facebook handles or whatever.
Right.
So technically like they were still like verging high school graduates, but it might say like Alice, Radford University or whatever.
Right.
And so I think that is actually technically how we even ended up like becoming friends on Facebook in the first place. So anyway, which ended up eventually like 8 years down the line being the way that we made contact, and now we're married and have a child together and everything. But in a lot of ways, like when I think of soulmates, I think of it as like this is like it's like a destiny thing. Like I think it's interesting to imagine almost like souls that are magnetized towards one another, because there's always that thought of like what are the odds of you, like in the whole wide world, 8 billion people, what are the odds of you finding your person, like the predestined soulmate?
I mean, if it's predestined, then it's 100%. Right? Yeah.
Right. Exactly. But so my thought there though is that like this means that like if we're magnetized, then it's like it doesn't matter if I went to JMU, because it would mean that I would have had, because if I had gone to JMU.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so here's my proposal would be that like if I had gone to JMU instead, then it would be the case that I would have had this entire set of like life circumstances. Maybe I would have joined like a fraternity or something, or like done things very differently than like the way that I did them at Radford. Maybe even just because geographically speaking, it would have been like further from home. Maybe my own psychology would have like lent itself to being like, I'm more of an independent person now. Because you even went to Radford for your first year of college.
I did, yeah.
So even that was like there was like some pre-established like formula for like even like what this looks like and how I would behave in all the rest of it.
And like you went to Radford and then like roomed with like friends from high school.
Yes.
So you were like still near home and then literally living with people from home.
Yes. Yeah. And then in addition to that, I also had the aquarium business back home, which would like continuously be like a reason to like go back and like have these like touches.
Right. You were like, this will come up again later. You were like close enough to the aquarium business that it was, you could still drive there.
Yes.
In an inconvenient way. Whereas if you'd been at JMU, you just absolutely would have been too far.
It would have just been too far.
Yeah.
It would have been like, well, I can't do that then.
Yeah.
So that would have been the thing. So like there's a possibility at that point in time that like we don't end up buying the aquarium business in the first place, because we didn't buy that until March of 2008. And that would have been like well after I would have already committed to Radford, and before I would have been accepted to JMU in the first place anyway. And so the whole entire equation here is sort of like, if I had this entire other set of life circumstances, and Alice and I are in fact soulmates, like if that's like the belief here, then that version of me would also be asking the question, man, like it's wild, because you would think like she went to Radford. If I had made the decision to go to Radford instead, then surely we would have met, and like that relationship could have potentially been there.
Like if you had gone to JMU, but now you were still married to Alice right now.
Yes.
And you'd been like, you'd be like, man, I so closely went to Radford. Can you imagine if I did? We definitely would have met. But like, weirdly, we know that story, and no, you wouldn't.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, no, you wouldn't. And even more interestingly is like the other thing that Alice and I have talked a lot about is that like we were at such different phases in our lives while we were at school that there was if we had met proper at school, I think that there is an even greater likelihood that things would have been more of like a college relationship and not maybe not made it out of that time. Because
it still doesn't seem impossible that you could have gone to JMU and like, because you did have a bunch of friends at Radford that had you gone there, you'd have had reason to visit.
Yes.
Yeah. Like you still could have like crossed paths in some like much more social only non-academic way.
Right. So to bring it back to the original question, the thought here is almost like because I know that a lot of people when they question the idea of soulmates, I think that they're like, the idea that there's this like one person out there for you and like, like whatever. So like the argument would be here is like if it's real, then you're just so it's like I predestined is the word that is correct, but I like this.
I don't even know if it is.
No, okay.
Because if it's predestined, then you couldn't have ever made any of those other decisions anyway. Predestined makes it like the way you're describing it's like you have a certain amount of free choice, but no matter what, all the paths will lead back to Alice.
Okay,
but like if it's predestined, then you were always on the path to her no matter what.
True.
And so all the choices you did make, you were always going to make.
Right.
Okay. So like maybe this is where magnetized is better, because that allows for a certain amount of free will, but no matter what you choose, eventually you will sort of be like back together.
Yes.
Although magnetized also allows for like, these are two people who like would come near each other, but also seems like you could end up with someone else.
Well, I guess that's a good point too. Because that's a good point. I don't even know how to argue it, but you're right. Like, but the question in my mind, because I in like the MCU or Marvel comics, for example, there's this concept of like Nexus events or Nexus characters, and the idea is that like in the greater wide multiverse, like in every other multiverse, there's another version of like Tony Stark, and in any of those, maybe he's good, bad, other different, never discovers he's Iron Man, like whatever. But then like a Nexus character is someone who's like the same always. And so that was like one of those things I was like, oh man, what a fascinating concept to apply to real life, where it's like you ending up with Alice is your like she's like your Nexus person. It's like it can happen a million different ways, but it always that will always happen. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like no matter what, you will always, like, this thing will always happen. It might always look a little bit different. It might end up going different ways, but it's like, no matter what, this point will be a part of your timeline regardless.
Right. That's interesting. But see, because if that's true, then it's like, then it's true for like your parents and stuff too, right?
Yeah,
so
I
then it's like
suppose so, yeah.
everyone, that would mean that like the multiverse is governed by like soulmate style relationships, wherein everyone ends up with the same people all the time, and thus the same people are always created all the time.
Yes.
Right.
Apparently. Yeah, but that would be
it up.
It's sort of an interesting variation though on the like on the idea of the multiverse, because it means that like and if you could go through and like look at all of them, it's like they're all always the same except different in every other way.
Okay, I think I've talked about this before. This has been like my sort of like background idea for like a book or something.
Okay,
At
lay
one
it on me.
point, it is along the same lines, wherein your central character would be confronted by some, you know, the Uatu, the Watcher, whatever type being who can see all of the possibilities,
Right, yep.
or whatever, and they're talking to you, the person, the main character in the story, and it is vitally important for all realities that you end up with the, like, you know, your soulmate in your reality.
Okay.
Right. And what's unique about the main character of my story is that of all of the realities, this is the only time in which these two people meet and end up together.
Okay.
So like, let's say,
Okay. Yes.
right,
Yes.
which is important because it means that their offspring is a singular being.
Oh, interesting.
And that's
Okay.
why they are important. And so their offspring would be like the most singular person, which would, you know, then that would perhaps endow them with some amount of ability to to chosen one the situation or whatever.
Right.
But because I've thought about this for like years at this point, and I'm like, the problem is that, like, you know, how would you, you know, it seems like there'd be so many infinite versions of you, but like in this scenario, there would not be, right? Like you could like narrow it down, because like, whilst there are infinite possibilities out there, there's not infinite copies of you out there, because there's not an infinite number of times in which your parents have met to produce you. So like, for the sake of the story, you could still have like, yeah, you exist a lot out there, but maybe there's only like, you know, 3,000 versions of you that exist in all of the infinite possibilities.
Okay.
Because that's the number of times your parents have met or
Okay.
whatever, right?
Yep.
So in that case, then you can go through and look at the characters like, you know, 2,999 other instances. And I think what would be fun about that is that like the main character would be able to, like, you know, visit those other scenarios and like see what happened. And like, you could have like, oh yeah, like 90% of the time you pretty much marry that girl from college. Like that's pretty much always it.
Right.
Like, but like, and then there's like 80% of the time that girl you met here when you were kids, it's her like 8% of the time. And then there's like 20 instances of this one crazy girl, you know, or whatever.
Sure.
Right. Or whatever it is, you know.
Yes. Yeah. Like sort of the more like just interesting side plot that could have happened.
Yeah. Like the side plots. And then, you know, you'd need some like actual other like singular evil person that you could end up with or something to like round out the story or something. But whatever.
Yeah.
This would be the situations that you're in jeopardy of messing up creating the chosen one, and that's the crux of the story.
Okay.
Or whatever. But so I don't know. That's sort of my I don't know how exactly we got there, but
No, I love it. No,
Okay,
it's very
cool.
interesting. It
Yeah.
makes me think that like Luke must be the chosen one.
right, like yeah, right. If there's, you know, 3,000 different Jays out there, and I'm the only one who ever married Beth, then Luke and Nick and Nate are extremely unique.
Right. Because this is a question when you're at your first book signing, someone will inevitably ask you.
Yeah.
They're gonna be like, so are you living in the one?
Right. Yes.
The chosen nun.
Probably the chosen nun.
I was trying to think of a witty title.
We're gonna workshop that.
It is not great.
Not great.
Could be better. Okay. Well, that's interesting. So my next thought here was because when Alice and I were having this particular conversation about soulmates and such, she was talking about one of her best friends, and she was like I think that they're one of my soulmates, and I was like, see, I think that you guys are like the kindred spirit terminology. Like it's like you guys are like and I know this probably just sounds like another version of like cliche, like descriptors in terms of like the sentiment maybe, but it's almost like you guys are puzzle pieces that like fit together is sort of like how I imagine like a kindred spirit. It's like everything that you are things that they're not in a way that they need, and vice versa. And so it's like when like slid together, it's like it like makes like just the perfect combination of like chemistry between two people. But the interesting thing about that one, for me at least, is that I remember, and I think I have talked about this particular person in my life before once upon a time, but when I was working at Petland, I felt like I had met one of those people.
Oh, that was like that was a kindred spirit to you?
Yes,
Yeah.
Seth.
Right, yeah, I think I have talked about Seth before.
Yeah, and he was like one of those people. I was like, when I met, it was like I could not believe how quickly we just like completely got along.
Right.
You know, I was like, this is interesting. And so like, we were like really close buddies, but then it was like also the type of thing where it was like there was like this like one X factor that was going to cause him to just go like in a completely different direction altogether, and it like went from being like my best bud to just like I literally have no idea where Seth is in the world now.
Right.
You know, and it's like one of those things where it's like sometimes I'm like, how do I find this person? It's like Carp Girl all over again.
Carp Girl. We haven't talked about her in a while. Mark your bingo cards, people.
Do you think? Yeah, maybe that's one of my alternate realities. Like you said, like that person you met during childhood.
Right, yeah.
Like maybe Carp Girl is one of those.
Maybe.
And it's like one of our favorite stories to tell people.
Right, like, man.
It's like you wouldn't believe it. Yeah, she thought I pushed her in with the carp.
I didn't. Yeah, no, I was laughing. I was laughing too hard to have pushed.
I know. Yeah, no, couldn't have done it. For those people who have not listened to the entire back catalog of the pop, the very brief story here is that I was at physics camp and we went on a
Can I just say how cool you were as a kid?
Thanks. I know. I felt like it really oozed out of me. Went to physics camp and we took a field trip during physics camp to the local Smith Mountain Lake dam, where there is like a little dock platform where you can like buy popcorn and feed the carp.
Sure.
And there are so many carp that you could basically like walk across this platform of fishes.
Yeah, they're so trained to eat the popcorn.
Yes, I mean it was like just thousands of them in like a 20 by 20 area. It was so it's absurd. Anyway, one of the girls on the trip, whose name I cannot remember, fell in with the carp.
Yeah.
And it was just like, it was one of these, it was such an incident, and I've always wanted to like re-find that person so I could like have a conversation about this story, and I've never been able to find her. So in case you have like a friend or a cousin or, you know, like an in-law or something who happens to be Carp Girl, you know, be
like,
sure to drop us a line.
Because it feels like whoever she is, this story is like infamous to her.
It
like
has
it
to
has to
be
be the case that her whole family and every friend she's ever met knows the story of falling in the carp when she was feeding them the popcorn. And like it stands to reason that someone listening to the show
Knows
must
her.
know Carp Girl. Anyway, that's why the show is called Popcorn Culture.
That's it. Yes, because it's actually it's the long con.
It's the long con.
You feed the carp the popcorn.
The popcorn. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This whole show is just designed around finding Carp Girl.
Carp Girl.
Yeah.
One of these days.
One of these days.
It'll happen.
No, that's not what it's called. That's not what it's the name of the show. Anyway, so what were we talking about? Soulmates? Yes.
Soulmates.
So
yes.
you think Alice was describing one of her friends as a soulmate?
As a soulmate, but I would argue kindred spirit.
Oh, I would have to agree with you, because to me that sounds like Alice is suggesting that one can have multiple soulmates, which to me, not that maybe, I think to me the more common meaning of soulmate is there is you and one other, and that
singular soulmate.
So singular soulmate.
Not soulmates.
Not soulmates. Yeah, you don't have soulmates.
Soulmates.
Yeah. That feels like the whole premise of the idea is that there's only one other.
Yes.
It also typically evokes a romantic relationship.
It does feel that way.
How I've never heard anyone describe like a platonic soulmate.
Right. Well, so maybe it's the case that you are that like everybody has within, like, so every single person is both like the center of their own universe, and they have people who are in their orbits, who are their kindred spirits, right? But those people themselves also they are the center of their own universes as
Right.
well. People are not like side characters to other people's stories.
Right.
Except they just have their own stories, and the other people are side characters in their stories.
Sure, that makes sense.
You follow?
I track.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the case, is that you have kindred spirits floating in your orbit who help guide you to your ultimate magnetized soulmate.
Oh, okay.
That's my
Wow.
We got real heady.
We got real heady. This is like, it's so tricky because like it, I wouldn't even say that it, like with the idea, like once you're with someone for like a very long time, like it's very easy to like, it also suggests that your soul is the way it is since you existed forever. Like that, I don't know, that you wouldn't like change or grow with another person or something.
Right. Okay.
Necessarily. Or like, I always remember this was like, it's kind of funny to think back on this, but when like Beth and I started dating in high school, it was like, I think many of the conversations were about like just how so different we were and how I was like, opposites attract. Like that phrase came up like all the time around us. Like to me, like we really couldn't have been much more different.
Sure.
Yeah.
I will say that I think that I even remember sharing that sentiment.
Right.
Like talk about strong opinions about weak things. Like I think that we have grown as people just a whole lot since we were high schoolers.
Yes.
But as high schoolers, I definitely feel like we had like our little strong opinions about weak things then. And so like I remember like Beth was obviously like a huge part of who she was being like a member of like the marching band,
right?
Which was just something that like we just didn't really have like any other like affiliation with, because we were cross country runners,
right? Yeah,
so we weren't like football players where like like there was even like that potential like crossover, like we all play on the same field, at the end of the day,
right? Yeah,
the Friday night thing. I don't think the marching band ever came to one of our cross country meets.
Not a chance.
No. So I do remember thinking that, but then the other interesting thing is that like as now like adults is that Beth is like completely like also found running as like the foundation of like I feel like a huge
like
source
her,
of like her,
like number one hobby.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like maybe you guys were incredibly similar, just hadn't realized.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's just like, it's so funny that back then I could have described us as like complete opposites. Whereas if you met us today, you would like, that is the last thing you would describe us as.
I would say
opposites.
You're complete similars.
Yeah, we're like, you would be like, yeah, you're the exact same. Like all of your, like you're aligned on like everything,
Yeah.
Or it's just like, I don't know if that was like always true, or if it's like when you're younger, you use more like external things to help define who you are, where like maybe like that's what always kept us together, was like at the core of it all, we have like the same values and like outlook and future hopes, whereas our interests are different, but those core things kept us on track together. Whereas like as an adult, like those things are more prevalent and prominent on display all the time.
Right.
Whereas you don't need all of these external things to help like define you anymore.
I think that is a just absolutely fantastic way of recognizing what I feel like it is. Yeah, it's almost like what you guys had was foundations that were just so solid, so similar, that fit together so perfectly, even if everything that was like built on those maybe had like a different aesthetic at the time.
Right.
Because as everything grew and everything got bigger and more important, like it turns out those two different architectural styles perfectly meshed together.
Right, exactly.
No, I think that's pretty interesting. Okay. Well, it feels like a good spot for a transition.
Transition! Ben, I see here under Wicks of the Peak.
Wicks of the Peak!
Wicks of the Peak that you've got zebra cakes. That's all.
That's all.
That's all, man.
That's it. Okay.
Tell me about zebra cakes.
Let me just tell you.
The second tier Little Debbie snack.
Second tier. How dare you? Second tier. Do you know how fast we ran out of zebra cakes in this office when we got zebra cakes for the first time?
Quickly.
Instantly.
There's
you want to
no
know what
doubt.
else we didn't run out of as fast?
What?
Every single other thing.
You know why? That's because we restocked the oatmeal cream pies nonstop because everyone can't stop eating them.
Okay.
Yeah,
You tell yourself.
I will
You
tell
tell
myself
yourself
that,
whatever
yeah.
you please. Do you remember as a child the snack basket?
Ben, of course I remember the snack basket.
The snack basket. So mom was she had the snack basket.
Yeah.
And I would say that like we definitely grew up, and mom had like a great formula I always felt for our packed lunches, which was that you would have like your main sandwich, like a pack of like chips of some kind,
some description,
a drink, and like a dessert. Was there also like a fruit in there?
Feels like there was one other thing
One other
normally.
thing,
Yeah.
Anyway, but so very frequently the dessert would be like a cosmic brownie.
Yeah.
You know, Swiss cake rolls. I remember were like a really big
Fantastic.
one from the Little Debbie's lineup. The nutty bars.
Yeah,
Is that what they're called?
that's like D tier.
Whoa.
Little Debbie treats. Yeah.
Foxshire.
Yeah, that's right.
Holy goodness.
You heard it here.
You were really like, you're just going after everything today. You're
zebra
surprising
cake.
me.
Zebra cakes are, of course, actually amazing. I was just giving you a good ribbon over there.
It worked. It
Yeah.
worked exceptionally well.
Nutty bars, D tier. No
D-
doubt. There's no doubt. I can't be convinced otherwise. Don't even try.
Well, so anyway, one of the things that we never had as kids growing up, well, and so I would also say this, is that because we had them so often growing up, I think that like many of these things, after, you know, so many years of schooling and packed lunches and everything, just kind of slowly like stopped feeling like the same treat that maybe it was originally that like led us to filling the snack basket with these particular, you know, grabbables.
Yeah.
Which we have our good buddy John, and I felt like whenever you went to John's house, there was like bowls of candy everywhere. And I swear this is not like a verified parenting tactic, but I swear I felt like it prevented all of their kids from wanting candy because it was just like, we're going to make it everywhere.
Yeah.
all
It's
the
just
time.
so available all the time. They'll just get tired of it. And that was the case.
It was the case, yes. Like, you know, like you walk in and be like, there's just Reese's like on the, can I have one? And I was like, yeah, of course, man.
Help yourself, dude.
Yeah, and it was just like,
And I would.
I know, yeah, it was so great.
Yeah.
It was so great. But anyway, so I think that growing up, what happened was a lot of these things kind of just became like second grade, you know. It's just sort of like I could take it or leave it. Like I'm not excited about it. It's usually something I see more as like sustenance than I would see as like a treat.
A zebra cake?
No. The other things, all the aforementioned.
Okay.
The Swiss cake rolls, the nutty bars, the cosmic
Gotcha.
brownies. And such.
Yeah. But we didn't have zebra cakes, is what you're
We
saying.
didn't have zebra cakes.
See.
We didn't have zebra cakes. And so then I think at some point in time, I found those as an adult. And now I just have the sheer pleasure of getting to enjoy them, like without having had them in packed lunches for 180 days a year,
Right.
for 12 years of schooling.
Right. So do you buy zebra cakes on the reg now?
Well, sometimes
Yeah.
they don't last very long.
That's
but
true.
As you know, I love myself a good convenience store.
I do.
And so it is one of those
It's
things.
one thing I know about you and
Yeah,
the external ways in which you define your personality.
Yes. It's like one of my key hobbies. You know, there's like exercise, weightlifting, mountain biking, rock climbing, convenience stores. One of these things is not like the rest. And it's mountain biking. Obviously, it requires a
A
tool.
lot of extra,
Mechanisms,
materials.
spokes. None of the other
Yeah.
things have
Very
spokes.
expensive to get into.
Yeah. So sometimes I'll go. The other thing, in addition to zebra cakes, that I love so very much are any of the holiday versions of zebra cakes.
Oh, dude, Ben, there can be no doubt that like the Christmas tree Little Debbie cakes
The best.
are so good. I remember this past year, like coming into the holidays, like we have some office snacks around here, and there was just like a standing order, like anytime you're there, if you see the Christmas cakes, just get them. And it was like, and like despite this order to just scoop up as many as possible, I think all of December we managed to get one box.
One box.
Yeah.
The whole time.
Everyone
I know.
knows. Everyone knows.
Everyone knows. And I wish they didn't know, because it means that we can't ever get them. I know. So anyway, yeah, that's just my wick at the peak. It's just zebra cakes. If you haven't had one, I'd recommend going and getting them. I also am like half determined to see if I can't try to make my own.
Oh,
Like
make your
homemade.
own zebra cakes? That sounds like a potential episode from the now defunct Bon Appetit series, like Gourmet Bakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe there's an episode on zebra cakes that
Maybe
I can go
there
back and
is.
watch, and I can learn how to make my own.
Yeah, I'm sure there's got to be a Little Debbie cake. So I think they did Swiss cake rolls at one point.
Okay. I'm
Yeah.
going to need a hexagonal cookie cutter, because they
Yeah.
have to be hexagonal.
There's no doubt about that. They definitely have to be.
Or Christmas tree shaped, which
That would
which
also work.
be
That would also
acceptable.
work.
Yeah.
I think Little Debbie's cakes fall into what I have personally begun describing as the Thin Mint phenomenon.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, give me. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drop my own hot take
Yeah.
here, which is that I think Thin Mints are wildly overrated.
Well, there's no doubt about that, Ben. There's no
Okay,
doubt
okay,
about that.
okay.
But okay, so here's the thing. of all the strong opinions about weak things that you might have,
Yep.
let me tell you, if you need a good starting point to get into this sort of thing,
Everybody,
you're looking to
like,
get into strong
like,
opinions about weak things.
How do I grow a strong opinion?
How do you grow a strong opinion? Let me tell you what. The most common one I've ever come across is people's feelings about Girl Scout cookies.
Yep.
Everyone has a strong opinion about this otherwise weak thing, about which one is the best. And for all intents and purposes,
Intensive purposes.
and for all intensive purposes, there will be people who disagree, but ultimately it normally comes down to 3.
Okay.
And those 3 are the Thin Mints, the Samoas, and the Tagalongs, which are the peanut butter ones.
Yep. Okay.
And people will get real into it. They will say like, well, sometimes they're called Caramel Delights and sometimes they're called Samoas. And if you get them at the place that makes them that's called Caramel Delights, then they're better. But if you get the Samoas, then they're not as good. People will get deep into the weeds about this exact topic.
Right. Yep. Okay.
But the fact of the matter is, Samoas are the best. That's my strong opinion about this week thing. These are my favorite Girl Scout cookies.
That's like the coconut caramel.
That's the coconut one.
Chocolate drizzle.
Right, yes.
No, I agree with you completely.
Yeah.
I too think, and it's like one of these things where whenever I eat a Thin Mint, I'm always like, this is so like, it's just not that satisfying.
Right.
It's
not,
like,
yeah.
it's like a half of an Oreo with a little bit of mint flavor.
It's not the treat I want it to be.
Yeah.
And so the thing is, though, like in the act of buying Girl Scout cookies, at least once upon a time, maybe it is like, Girl Scouts going door to door saying, can I put you down for a couple of boxes or whatever?
Yeah.
And so in that moment, you have to decide, what is my annual, intake of Girl Scout cookies going to be?
Right.
Am I going to like, you need to get some variety, clearly, but you got to get the most of something,
Right.
probably. And what's that going to be? And for me, that's always going to be the Samoas. And like if I was going to get like a backup box there, I'd probably get the Tagalongs as well.
Okay.
The peanut butter ones, just to mix it up to help support the Scouts.
Sure.
Whatever. And so, like, given the full menu of things to order, I would never end up getting the Thin Mints.
Okay, like
Right.
you would just not order them at all.
I just wouldn't order them at all. But here's the thing. If I was like at your house and you put out like a plate of Thin Mints, like of course I would just eat them without stop.
Without like you would mow through a whole sleeve.
Right. So what these 3 in particular, or what Girl Scout cookies in generally do, is you've got basically 3 cookies up there that are all at like, 100% or at 99%. Right?
Okay.
Like in terms of like your ability to enjoy them. But given the need to order them on a form, you're only going to go for the 100% one, even though the 99 one is right there and still very good.
Sure.
Right?
Sure. Okay.
So the Girl Scout the Thin Mint phenomenon is when people are vehemently against something they actively really like because it's not as good as the thing that's even better.
Wow.
So it's like, if people ask me, like, if I were to talk to people about Girl Scout cookies, I would thrash Thin Mints, even though they're actually really good. It's like, I would never, but all I mean is that, like, I would never choose them first, given the options. But, like, does that mean they're bad? No. I would just never choose them if I could also get Samoas.
I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean?
I see what you're saying.
Right.
Why go for a 99 when you could have a 100?
Exactly. But the thing is, 99 is still really good.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's an interesting take, and I think but so then you say that applies to Little Debbie cakes in some way.
I think, well, this is Little Debbie cakes is like, they're right in that category where it's like, I will always think that oatmeal cream pies are the #1 Little Debbie cake because they are.
Well,
and
no, I mean,
as such, I would therefore slam all other Little Debbie cakes as not as good, even though the fact is you could put almost any of them in front of me except the Nutty Bars, and I would be like very content to eat them because they're all really good.
So you would, wow, you would not eat a Nutty Bar.
If I see it, I would pass. Yeah,
just pass.
I would pass.
Too many packed lunches.
No, just I think Ben. If you go back, I'm sure when you're in the afterlife and you review the footage on the snack basket, you will notice that the Nutty Bars are there all of the time, and it's not because we're restocking them like we are the oatmeal cream pies at the office. It's because no one's picking them; they're just left there.
Man, as a kid, I loved them because you can break apart the wafers and like eat the peanut butter in the middle.
No,
delicious.
No good at all.
Oh, no, I honestly I do. I feel like I have to disagree with your take on oatmeal cream pies because I mean I would like that's the one for me that it's like I'll get it's a pity snack.
It's a pity snack.
I'll walk over and be like, poor things. I don't normally choose these. I guess.
You guess?
I guess.
People think they don't like the oatmeal cream pies, Ben, but the longer they're around, you're like, man, these are really good.
No, they're fine. They're fine. They make my mouth feel dry.
Okay.
Is what they do. Yeah. So anyway, okay. Well, I feel like that's a pretty good transition point because you have included something that I am excited to talk about in this week's episode, called the region beta paradox.
Yes.
And I actually feel like what you just described doesn't feel terribly far off from essentially what the region beta paradox is.
Yeah, we were sort of flirting with it earlier, and I think we've probably discussed it without knowing what it was called in the past.
You know what? One of my favorite things, though, is when we accident upon a real life phenomenon.
Yeah, no doubt.
We're setting people up for bingo.
We are
so
setting
hard.
people up,
Yeah,
man. People are bingoing like crazy today. Okay, so I just learned about this over like the last few days, and I think it's like the number one thing that plagues me in life, and it's the thing like chances are you listener at home are already suffering from it in some capacity. Excuse me.
I was gonna say you might be the only person I know who can like talk and burp just like as if
right
nothing happened. It's just like completely unfazed by the entire experience.
Yeah, what you might not know about me, listener, is that I burp more than the average person. There's no way around it, and I don't know when it started. I don't know why. I don't know. It just happens. And like there have literally been people in my life where they'll be like, they will point it out, and I will literally at this point just say like, yeah, you'll get used to it. And like because it's like there's nothing I can. It just happens. It just happens. I'm not like trying to do it. So I'm sorry. I would try and really avoid doing it, talking on the pop, but it does happen, and I'm sorry. Anyway. The region beta paradox is when worse situations end up being better for you because they prompt action. So what that means is the classic example, if you look this up on Wikipedia, is like, let's say you have gotten a new, like you're looking for a job, and ahead of time you don't know where that's going to be, but you decide like, well, if it's a mile or closer, I'll just walk as a way to like to get some exercise in. That's not that bad. But if it's more than a mile, I'll bike or whatever. So the situation would be that like if it ended up being like, let's say 2 miles away, then you would bike to work.
Okay.
Right? But the irony is that by biking, you can bike 2 miles faster than you can walk 1. So, in a weird way, the fact that your commute is longer has actually worked out better for you because of this other decision, wherein if you only lived 1 mile away, it would actually take you longer to get to work because you wouldn't have decided to bike. So the fact that the situation is worse ends up working out in your favor. Or another way in which you might look at this is like a lot of like almost too bad relationships are like this.
Right.
Where
yes.
like if you're with someone and it's like almost bearable, you'll probably just stick it out with them because it's better to be with someone than not. But if they like actively cheat on you, then you have a very good reason to take action to get out of the situation.
Yes, I had a high school relationship that I think was exactly like that, where I was like, they've never done anything wrong. But I can tell I'm not like invested
exactly
in the relationship, and it's like if there was a catalyst, then at least there would be but nothing has ever
right like I'm just not that interested in this person, but they're not doing anything wrong, and they are nice, and it's so if I break up with them, it will feel like there's no reason other than that, like I just don't like them, which feels mean. So I guess I'll just stick it out with them.
Right. Which is also mean.
Yeah. Which is also mean. But so this would suggest, or like sometimes if maybe if you're in a bad job or something.
Yep.
If you're in a job that's just like really boring, and it's just like, but you know what? It's a paycheck. So, and you're doing it, and it's not really that bad. Whereas like if you
like job hunting would be worse than
staying. Not having a job would be better than doing this. But like, if you went to work every day and it was like they were screaming at you like every single day, and you were being put down and getting pay cuts, like it would be really obvious that like I need to get out of here, and so you would, because like you wouldn't put up with it. But so what this would say is that like like it is better. It would almost be better to be in that situation, like in like a -10 kind of situation, because it will prompt action immediately. Whereas if you're in like sort of like a -1 situation, you might put up with it like 10 times longer and like net like a -100 or a -200, right? Which is way worse in the long run than that like short-term -10.
Yes, yeah. And I do think that we've touched on this exact topic before, where it's almost like a lot of times you just kind of like learn to like live with like the static noise that's in the background because it's not blaring at you.
Yes.
And I had an example of this that went on for like 3 to 4 years after moving into my house, which was that my front 2 lights, so like over like my walkway. This is like one of those things like where I've never known what the right play is. For one, let me start there, because it had never occurred to me before that you were supposed to leave your front lights on as sort of like as like a service to the neighborhood, if you will. Like if everyone on our street didn't leave their lights on at night, then the whole street would be kind of dark because there are no street lamps or anything.
Yeah.
So it's like, and if it's really dark, then does that like promote, burglary or something like that?
Right.
And so it had never occurred to me before. And for a long time, me and Alice's big thing was, we always thought of like leaving the lights on in the house, and this was like the way that we were like getting better about like trying to cut down on like energy consumption and stuff like that, was we just used the analogy of thinking of like you would never leave a faucet running, like your sink faucet, like with water just pouring out, because it feels like it's such a visible physical kind of like waste.
Yeah.
Like if I came home from work and realized I'd left my faucet running the whole day,
right,
I would be mortified.
Right.
But like for the most part, if I woke up in the morning and came downstairs and realized I had left like a lamp on in our living room, I wouldn't be like, goodness me,
Yeah, you just be like, click, okay,
yeah, like turn it off, yeah. And so for a long time, we had like our front lights. It would be this thing where I was like torn about whether or not to like leave them on, turn them off, do like whatever. But the other big thing was that the light switch was so temperamental because the house was built in like 1930, so it's just a very old house, and it's the original light switch. And so like in order to turn it on, you like literally had to like take the light switch and like push it to the right, and it was almost like causing like the metal pieces inside of like the switch box itself to like rub together. And like sometimes I even felt like I was like, did I just see like a little spark in there or something?
Right.
It's
like electrocute myself.
Yeah, it's like but it was like one of those things where like the lights would still turn on, but then like once they were on, it was always like one of these things where I was like, well, I don't want to turn them off, because like sometimes like I would have to like flick the switch like 50 times to get them to like come back on again.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I was always at like war with like this, like, am I helping the neighborhood by leaving the lights on? Should I turn them off? I feel like, is it being wasteful? But also like the light switch is like.
Has someone like informed you about the service to the neighborhood?
No, it's just I've just observed that all of my neighbors do leave their front 2 porch lights on.
And this is your assumption about why they do it.
This is my assumption.
Okay.
Purely. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Because my other assumption would be that people are not expecting like a DoorDash delivery at 3 a.m.
Right, sure.
So it's like I can't think of any other reason why they leave them on.
Right.
But the point is that like it was this like small, mild inconvenience, the light switch itself, that it was bad. And like in a lot of ways it was like, this could be even worse, but it never really seems like that little spark that happens. It only ever happens when I turn the switch on successfully, which it doesn't always even turn on successfully. Mm-hmm. And so I would do nothing about it. And then eventually it just stopped working entirely. And it was like, I'm replacing everything. And so
right.
I at that point in time, I went through and like I learned how to like rewire all of like the light switches. And there was like it's like a 4 box, so I had to like rewire all of them so that they matched. I know like a new faceplate cover. Oh man, it was such a thing. Anyway, so now the lights work. But any weigh in that you have on whether or not you should leave your front porch lights on at night, I would certainly appreciate.
Boy, I have not super considered this, although there are street lamps in my neighborhood, so I don't know if it makes as much of a big deal.
Your neighborhood could be better set up for it. I'm also more in the city than you are. So
that's true.
There is already existing like burglary that does happen anyway.
That's true. Yeah.
So I don't know that it'll make a huge difference leaving my 2 lights on.
I know. Like typically, I'm just like whenever I go up to bed, I'll just turn the front lights off because I'm like, well, I'm just not going to pay for the energy.
Don't leave the faucets
Yeah,
running.
like, come on, why
Yeah.
are the faucets running? You mentioned that to me one time, and it did make a lot of sense. It's just like, yeah. So sometimes like I'll always like check the basement because like my basement switch turns on like 4 lights.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
got like several
Yep.
things attached to it. So I'm like, oh man, if I leave this one on all night, like that's
That's
like a forfer.
That's a forfeit.
Yeah, just,
That is a costly mistake.
That is a costly mistake. Can't have this. Switch it off.
Look at you go.
I know, saving all sorts of monies here and there's.
Amazing. Amazing.
But so yeah, that's the region beta baritox, and I feel like so many of my complaints in life are just exactly like what you came up with, where like my dishwasher was missing a clip, or it was like off the rung, and it's like, well, I can just learn to live with this,
Right?
And it's like, no, it's like now if the whole thing if the whole rack had just fallen off, it'd be like, well, now I have to change it,
Right?
Because I can't use it at all. But in the meantime, like I can use it like at like 85% and just put up with it and not have to do any extra work right now. So I will.
So maybe
Yeah.
maybe the real PSA here is be on the lookout for tiny toxic relationships that you have with your dishwasher.
Oh yeah, or dishwasher, or like right now, yeah, like we mentioned, like water dripping. Like my shower faucet in my bedroom just drips, and it's just like so annoying. And it's like, I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago, and it's like one of those where it's like, you know what I can do? I can just put my little loofah under it, and that'll just stop the sound from bothering me.
That is hilarious. That is
it's just like,
what a solve.
What a solve. Because that's the main problem to me, is that it's loud when I'm trying to sleep.
Right.
It's like, the real problem is also like all those drips are adding up to water you're actually paying for. So
that's true.
That's true too.
Someone did respond, and I think that your proposal was to change the shower head itself, and they pointed out that you would actually have to change the faucet mechanism, not the shower head.
Oh, interesting.
Because the shower head is not it's not valved in any way,
see.
shape, or form. So you have to change the valve.
Maybe that's the problem.
Might have to call a plumber.
Might have to. That'd be so annoying. There is like a twisty do on it though. On my
is there?
shower head. So I think there might be a valve, because like there's like a twisty thing you can do to allow more or less water through.
Oh.
Like while you're showering, to like adjust the pressure. So I don't know if that's entirely accurate.
Well,
Either way,
be sure to join us on our new podcast, Carlin Brothers Plumbing.
that's right.
Yeah. All right, transition.
Oh man, transition.
Okay, so Jay, I've got one for you.
Okay.
We talked about soulmates earlier. Like, is this something you believe in? I think that you could probably make the leap to like similarly comparing it to like your zodiac sign, your star sign, your horoscope, like whether or not that's something you invest in. Well, I had something recently that sprang up, and we have actually talked about it. I think like years ago on the pop at this point in time, but the personality quiz resurfaced, and it's basically like what famous character are you?
Oh yeah.
And I have got to tell you that I have taken this quiz in the past, and I think that every single time I have taken it, it has always it's bolstered my confidence in a way that I'm like, it's a silly internet quiz, and yet somehow it's like I want to share it with everyone.
Right.
Like I screenshotted the results, and it's like I feel like I've talked to people, we had like the whole family over for Easter, for example, on Sunday, like your family,
Yeah.
our little brother Tyler's family, our parents and everything. And it was almost the type of thing where it was like, I wonder if there's gonna be like an opening for me to share my
Gonna bring
news.
this up.
Like yeah. Now I took it like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
It's like it's been a while since I took it. But so I went through and I took this personality quiz to determine which character I was, and the result that came back was a 91% Ted Lasso.
Man, how perfect.
I know.
Although if I recall, you're not even watching this season so far.
Okay, I'm having a different issue, which is that I don't want it to be over. It has been so, and I want to watch it so bad. This is not like a laziness. This is not like a putting it off. This is not like maybe I'm out of touch with it or something. It's like I don't want it to be over, and so it's like I'm refusing to it's actually sneakers before. I've bought 2 pairs of most of the sneakers that I wear, so that when the original pair wears out, I have a backup pair, and then I don't have to be out of my sneakers.
Sure.
And I have recently cracked into for my leather pair that I wear all the time. I've
Right.
recently cracked into my backup pair.
Yeah.
And then when I did that, it was like, this is it. There's a good chance I'm not going to
This
find.
might be all that you get.
I might not find another pair because they
be it.
They were released like 8 years ago or 9 years ago at this point in time. So like finding a pair in my size that are still like new, hard to find. Hard to find. Plus they're just also like collectible on top of the rest of it. So I'm basically screwed. That's pretty much what I'm here to tell you. Anyway, so that's the exact problem.
Heaven knows you tried, man. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
But that's this problem I have with Ted Lasso. But yeah, so I got my 91% on the on the quiz that like identified me as Ted Lasso, and I was like, there's just literally no higher praise that you could possibly like express to me. And so I thought it was interesting because like when I started watching the show Ted Lasso, it like talking about like kindred spirits earlier, it's like I did feel like it like connected with me. Like I felt like I was like, I understand this character like to his bones, like, cause I was like, cause I feel like I know what it's like to be the person who like might show up and like be super like upbeat and exuberant and like encouraging for other people. And then also realizing that like that I have like my own inner struggles, and it's almost like this positivity that's being like projected is also like a little bit like insulating me from like my own like internalized things, which I think like is a lot of like what Ted has going on himself. And so it sort of like led me down like a little bit of research, and I found something called the mirror law.
Oh, okay.
And
what is the mirror law?
Well, I feel like it might maybe it'll tie pieces of our conversation today together, or maybe not. But the mirror law is the idea that other people are mirrors, and you see yourself in them. And
okay.
So it's kind of like I have been told before that I have like a verging on naive faith in humanity, but I don't know that I always have necessarily the highest appraisal of myself.
When you say naive faith in humanity, do you mean like in a negative way or a positive way?
In a positive way. Like I tend to think that I like that people are good innately.
Okay.
Like
right.
and
okay.
I will usually assume that you're a good person, and until like probably 10 steps beyond being proven otherwise. Like I will almost always assume that there's like that you're a good person. It's like there's like a phrase in The Wise Man's Fear, which is like the name of the Wind book, and it says like they were nice people. Most people are if given the chance,
right?
And like that's like something that's like stood out to me before. And anyway, but like I think that it's like a sentiment that like I embody myself, and so like I tend to see people as good, and I think that. What was interesting to me about it was I was like, if this is true, if the mirror law is correct, and you see other people and assume that they're good, then it's like, then that means that that like subconsciously you think you are good.
Right.
And I was like, that was like warming to me.
Oh, okay. I can see that. Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah.
Because it was like, okay, like everybody is just trying their best. Like everybody has their side of the story. Everybody has like become the people that they are for reasons that would make sense, or that you would have followed a similar path had you had those same shared experiences yourself.
Right.
So anyway, I just thought it was interesting because I think like when I saw the character of Ted, it was like I felt like maybe I was like maybe it was like looking into a mirror, but like in a way that was like much more reassuring, because I'm much more willing to assume that other people are good in a way that like I don't know that I would typically grant myself.
Right.
Like I tend to have a pretty harsh view of myself, very
That's
critical
true.
of myself.
Yes.
So
for
anyway,
sure.
that was interesting, but I also think it's a good thing to know about yourself, because it means what I started thinking about was like, well, if you're really cynical or really like critical of others, then I think that's a piece of like interesting perspective to even then have about like, again, if everybody's a mirror and that's how you view everybody, then what does that say about how you feel about you?
Yeah, it normally speaks to like larger insecurities about the person themselves.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. I would agree with that. I do think there probably is something to this to the mirror law a little, because it's like I feel like there's many times where like I am afraid to like take action on something because of how I know I would feel if that happen to me, or like I think like I won't say this because it'll make you think that, because that's what I would think if someone said that to me. But it's like so often like then it's like you're just like putting words or thoughts in other people's heads that aren't real.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Ruminating.
Yeah.
Yeah. A little bit. Well, sort of. That may be like a slightly more retroactive type of thing. But yeah. No. It's interesting because I think the thought assumes that other people think and see the world the way that you think and see the world, and if that ends up being true, which probably just on the whole like isn't true, but I think that you can learn a lot about yourself if you just like look at things through this particular lens. Like it might show you, it might shine lights on more about how you like feel subconsciously, because like I said, like I am someone like if I look to see the good in all, then hopefully that means that like subconsciously I think that there's good in me, even despite my own like self-criticisms that can certainly
Right.
That voice is louder, I think,
Sure.
than the other. So it's helpful because maybe it's a good way to like almost trick your brain into realizing the way that you view yourself.
Right. That's good. And it sounds like I'm glad this is comforting to you, because it sounds like otherwise you must have been operating under the idea that like, if it took you realizing that you thought of other people as good and therefore you think of yourself as good, then it sounds like maybe you just didn't think of yourself as a good person.
Well, I mean, I think it's the like when I hear people express like a lack of faith in humanity, I think that sometimes it forces me to believe that I must be being naive myself. Like I'm more inclined to believe that somebody else is right than that I am right.
I see.
If that makes sense. But you know, I mean, it's like this is like where it's so hard to know. Like I've always imagined so very much like what it would be like to be in the driver's seat of someone else's consciousness, just to see like how differently the world could be viewed.
Right.
You
like,
know?
would it turn out that your mind comparatively is pretty much at ease? Or
yes, yeah.
Or that your mind is like, oh no, yeah, I'm like a churning rapid here, and this person's like a calm lake. Or
right. Yeah, no, this is. I think like pain tolerances are very similar. Like where like you know, like you don't know how somebody else experiences pain. So for example, like I for one get just truly spectacularly, and it's been a long time since this has been a problem, like years, but especially like college time, a little bit after that, hangovers.
Yeah.
Like mine are colossal.
Yeah.
You know, like it is like extremely high fever, like inability to move, like rooms, like absolute, like, and you know, I think like a lot of people are like, you know, you don't feel like a hangover, you know, like it's like a mild headache, you know, and I'm like, if this is a mild headache, there's so much of it that's like, I wish someone could experience what I'm experiencing, because I want to know whether or not I'm just being a baby.
Yeah, like maybe you're just a wimp bed.
I know.
Okay?
Yeah,
Tough it out.
right.
Jeez.
Like you just don't know. You just don't
Right.
know. Like how somebody else experiences things, like what like the relative is, or if is there a chance like something else is actually going on, and like it's like, oh no, this is bad, this is like,
right.
Yeah, no, like you have every right to be in pain here,
right. Or do you
yeah, or you know, just rub some dirt on it.
That's right, man.
Yeah,
go eat some grease.
I know. Yeah, that was always like, I feel like the tactic in college, like everybody would be like, yeah, we'll just go get like Taco Bell or something. I'm like
nah, that was definitely the tack. That was the move for sure.
That was the move. Yeah,
that was the move. Yeah, I remember like, well, let's see. My first experience with libations at all was at Beach Week.
Okay.
Or whatever. And it was like a really great 4 days. And then on the 5th day, I was like, well, last day, I better go big. And that was like I always make this commentary about like DARE when we were growing up, which was like the, you know, the little school program that was like, don't do drugs, don't drink, stuff like that.
Yep.
Which is, you know, all very good messaging and stuff. But it was always like their examples for reasons not to do it were like the long-term ways it could ruin your entire like life sort of reasons.
Yes.
Rather like at no point during DARE was like a hangover
Something
listed
that,
as
like,
a consequence.
Right.
And it was just like, I remember not even knowing it, like it was like so weird. Like the first 4 nights I'd ever like had consumed any alcohol at all, there was just zero consequences. You know, like I just woke up the next morning, we're like, let's go, the World Cup's on, let's watch America, you know.
Right.
This is great. And then it was like the last night I was like, it was very much as like, why doesn't everyone what's the big deal? Why doesn't everyone just do this? You know, like this is such a fun thing because nothing can go wrong other than if maybe you make a bad decision while you're under the influence. Also not true. Because what can go wrong is that you can get a terrible, terrible hangover and feel horribly sick for a whole day.
Yes.
Yeah. And so that just like that hit me like a giant truck on the last night, and that was terrible. And I remember we had to drive all the way back from Myrtle Beach, and I was like in the back of my friend Bob's car, just like dying.
Yes. Yeah. It's like this is the
like,
worst.
This is the worst. The sun is so bright. I'm in a moving vehicle, and it's so hot. I've been awake for 12 hours, and that was the worst. Anyway, not really a great story, but the point is, the next I didn't consume anything else until like the end of the summer. We went on some camping trip, and I remember I had to go work the next day, my part-time job at American Eagle.
Nice.
Super fun.
I think you had like a 10-year of like 16 days,
like 3 weeks or something. Yeah,
Okay.
I was working the dressing room. Really,
Nice.
pretty boring.
It's
really
like,
just absolutely terrible.
You need a room?
You need a room? I got you up. Yeah,
I got the key.
I'll hook you up
Special
here.
key here.
I'll tell you what, I bought so much clothes with the amazing discounts.
You did. I remember. I
Yeah.
feel like you had like a belt with like little 4-leaf clovers.
I
on
did,
it.
some shamrocks on it, man.
Nice.
Yeah.
So cool.
Cleaned up. But I remember on this particular day, I was just like, I was not in good shape at all. And I got to like my lunch break, and I was like, we were right next to Chick-fil-A. That's where the American Eagle was located at the mall. And I was like, I'm so hungry and also feel so bad. And it was like one of these like, if I eat something, I'm just going to be worse. But also if I don't eat something, I'm going to starve to death. So I went next door. I got like this tiny little thing of chicken nuggets, and I remember I took one bite, and it was like the cure that came over my body was like, it was as if a miracle had happened.
No
it was
way.
like, I was like, oh my gosh, like I feel so much better.
You were
Like,
solved.
Yeah, it was like, this is amazing. And it was like, from that point on, I was like, all right. I figured something out. I made a discovery today.
Right. I am now equipped. Take that, Virginia
I
Dare.
got it. Yeah, I know. Yeah, man. If someone could have just told me about hangovers, that would have been a real relief. But yeah, so that was me learning about how to recover the next day.
How to cope. Goodness gracious. All things in
man.
moderation, right, folks?
Yes.
It feels like a great time to close out today's episode on just that truly lovely note.
I know. Yeah, we've gotten a little too personal.
I know. You know what? It's got to happen every once in a while. Guys, as ever, if you have any feedback for the pop, send it over to popcornculturepod@gmail.com. Otherwise, if you'd like to support the show, you can do so over at Patreon. We have a couple of really cool tiers. The $5 tier, you get access to the entire back catalog of an extra show that Jay and I do called After the Final Pop. It's an extra 15 to 20 minutes that we record after each week's episode. Also, we have our exclusive merch tier. It's the best way to get some popcorn culture merch that we have a lot of fun kind of coming up with and designing. We've done a bunch of cool things in the past, but the thing that we're currently doing for the second quarter of 2023 is a Deneen coffee mug, which if you are unaware of the like animal mugs that we've done over on Super Carlin Brothers, they are like individually hand-tossed, handcrafted, like the best coffee mug you ever drank out of in your life coffee mugs.
Yes.
I am so excited. It is typically incredibly difficult to get on the list in order to have something like these made. And they're, because we do like such regular business with them for the coffee company, they had a window that opened up and they were like, if you guys need anything for like the first half of this year, then we got you. And so we were like, okay, we're transitioning. We're doing it. We've got the mugs on order. This is the first time ever, though, that because they had to be placed so far in advance, there is actually a cap as to the number of people who can sign up. There's still plenty of room available, so no worries there. But if you want to head over to patreon.com/popcornculture, it's the exclusive quarterly merch tier. Link to that is in the show notes, as well as the link to my fun personality quiz where I got my Ted Lasso.
What fictional character are you?
Right, yeah. Figure out who you are. Let us know. Otherwise, guys, as always, until next time.
Pop, pop.